Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of Mocktail Minutes. This is Bailey,
And this is Brianna.
and we have a special guest. You might hear him because he's very wiggly now. We have Gannon on the podcast today.
Oh, hey guys.
Are you going to tell everyone? Hi.
Hi, I'm Gannon.
Yes, I am drinking a Unwell drink. I had one of these like 2 weeks ago, I think. It was a different flavor though. So this one is the strawberry. I really like the strawberry flavor.
Yeah, I need to try those. I saw them on the Call Her Daddy.
Yeah.
Yes, she was drinking one. I was like, I got creative this week and I mixed the orange squeeze Olipop with the vanilla core power, and it is actually very good. It tastes like an orange sickle.
Those are so good. I love the creamsicles.
That this tastes so good. I would say a good ratio would be like 3/4 core power, or like 2/3 core power, 1/3 Olipop. I think that's a good ratio, but it's so good.
Usually I just dump the whole soda in like a big glass and then I'll put in the ice. I guess I put the ice in and then I put the soda in and then I just kind of fill it up with the vanilla protein, whatever I'm using. And as I use it, I'll just keep adding more vanilla
Keep
protein.
adding more to it. Yeah, I have a little more here. I didn't add ice. How did I not add ice? That's really weird. It's very weird. But so it's very good for those of you that want to like switch it up.
Yes. And like speaking of protein, this week we are talking about protein digestion because we talk about protein a lot on the podcast and it is becoming trendier to increase your protein. But with that, we're seeing more and more people also have some stomach issues as far as like just digesting the protein. So we're going to go over protein digestion. That's actually a really hard word for me to say for being a dietitian.
Digestion. It's like the middle part is digestion.
Yes.
Digestion.
Yes. So we're going to go over signs of protein digestion, poor protein digestion, I guess, why this happens, and then some kind of initial steps that you can start taking to help better digest your protein.
Yeah. So some signs of poor protein digestion, and don't think like, oh my gosh, if I have one of these, I have poor protein digestion. There's just some things to look out for, especially if you are one of those that are like, oh, I'm increasing my protein right now. So bloating and gas is one of them. So undigested protein can ferment in the gut and it causes gas buildup and bloating. Indigestion and stomach discomfort. So like feeling heavy after eating protein or pain after eating like protein rich meals can suggest that you're not breaking it down very well. Undigested food and stool. I would say if you're having undigested food and stool, we need to get that checked out because you shouldn't be having that, but it can be a sign. So if you're starting to notice like larger pieces of like meat or other protein sources that you can like identify in your stool, that definitely means it's not being digested. Fatigue and weakness. So it's essential for our muscle repair, protein is, and it's essential for energy. So poor digestion can lead to poor energy levels because we're not digesting and absorbing it. Hair loss and brittle nails. We've talked about that before on one of our like how to have better hair episodes. So we know that protein is a building block of hair and muscles, amino acids. So again, if you're having a deficiency, which is what can be happening if you're not digesting it, you're not going to have nice hair and nails. It's just not going to happen. And then frequent blood sugar cravings or frequent sugar cravings because of a blood sugar imbalance. So obviously, if you're not absorbing your protein, it can lead to unstable blood sugar because carbohydrates are very easily digested and absorbed in the gut. And so it could be that you're digesting and absorbing all those, but not protein. And so you're not going to have as good of blood sugar balance as you think. And then lastly, brain fog and mood swings. So again, those amino acids are essential for neurotransmitters and poor digestion. You're so right. Poor digestion. I cannot say that more than like 5 times. It's going to be a problem. Can affect mental clarity and your mood.
So there's a couple different signs, and it's kind of tricky because I mean, a lot of these things, it's like, well, it could also be due to just the blood sugar imbalance or skipping meals or not enough water intake. So, and I feel like that's a lot of things in nutrition. It's like this one thing has to do with 10 different things.
Yeah.
It's a tricky part. So one thing I think that helps also differentiate it is if you eat a higher protein meal, or if you notice that you've been working on increasing your protein lately and it's like sitting a little bit heavier, then that could be a sign of, hey, I'm not digesting a protein well. And what I'm seeing more and more too is low stomach acid. So this is one reason why this happened is if we have low stomach acid, you're not going to be able to digest that protein because stomach acid is needed to break it down. So if you don't have enough, it can lead to incomplete digestion. So
yeah.
One thing I would also say, like enzyme deficiencies. So the pancreas produces enzymes like pepsin to digest your protein. Again, a lack of this is going to make it harder to digest your protein because you're not having the tools to break it down. So some things that can help, like almost like stimulate your body's natural enzyme production is lemon and apple cider vinegar. That's going to actually help stimulate stomach acid production. Drinking diluted apple cider vinegar can help. It also helps with blood sugar balancing too. Some leafy greens can help stimulate your bile production. Turmeric is also helpful for bile production, and bone broth actually contains amino acids that support your gut lining repair and enzyme production as well. If you were watching this video, it's very on my end today, but it's okay.
It's just like such a good example of like how moms juggle so many things. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to throw all this information at you on a podcast, also while I'm keeping my child entertained. I was just listening to a podcast this morning, one of Dr. Dr. Tina Moore on her. She has like a quick one this week on creatine, and I was listening to it and I didn't know this. And I guess it makes sense, but creatine can also help to like heal the gut lining. So if you're someone who has like, IBS or Crohn's or colitis, or, maybe like celiac, or just, you have leaky gut or you have a lot of gut inflammation, creatine can kind of help the lining of the gut be more healthy. And anytime you have a more healthy gut lining, you're going to have better digestion. So I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, bone broth, turmeric, leafy greens, apple cider vinegar. Another thing here too is just, and we talked about this when we talked about sodium, but sodium can increase your stomach acid. So if you've been like too low sodium for a while, like maybe that is just all you need, that can help. And then if you're someone who's taken like long-term, like proton pump inhibitors or like a lot of antacids, long-term, those are going to make you have decreased stomach acid, right? Because that's what it's supposed to do. But that really impairs how you digest food. And interestingly enough, if you've been on them long-term, you will still have acid reflux because too low of stomach acid also causes acid reflux. So if you're someone who's like, oh, I pop those every day, I have for like the last 5, 6, 7 years, let's pulse those, especially if you're like, I don't think my acid reflux is any better.
Yeah, sodium and potassium are another common one too that definitely affects the stomach acid. So making sure you got your sodium and potassium electrolytes to help regulate the stomach acid production and function. And then even zinc. Zinc is another one that's essential for stomach acid and production in your enzyme activity, including like that pepsin, which helps break down proteins.
And like we're talking a lot about like, obviously the enzymes that are involved in digestion, you have to have those, they have to be optimal. But sometimes it's just needing that more of that mechanical digestion, like chewing your food well is really important. So it's amazing how much we say this. But I mean, even though I know this and I say this, like there's times where I notice like, gosh, I don't think I'm chewing well enough. Like you get busy, you're eating quickly, whatever, or you're just like, you're overly hungry, so you're eating super fast. But chewing your food really helps because obviously digestion starts in the mouth. Chewing it thoroughly is going to signal your stomach to release acid, and it also helps get those other digestive enzymes going so that you can have proper digestion. Like if you're just like speeding through it, you're not taking long enough for your body to be like, oh yeah, we're in the process of, I don't know, eating and digesting our foods. So then also just being in that relaxed state. So really that rest and digest. So avoid eating rushed, avoid eating while distracted, but just trying to really like maybe take a couple of breaths before you eat, slow down, slow down.
And even with the slowing down part, overeating protein at one sitting can make it harder because it's not it's not like your body shuts down at 30 grams, we're not going to do anything else. Yeah. It's also protein is the hardest macronutrient for your body to break down. And so if you are not doing great with protein intake, like at breakfast and lunch, and now you're trying to get like 70 grams at dinner, then your stomach is probably going to hurt in that way because you're just overdoing it at one sitting. So that's why you do want to space it out all throughout the day, and that would be beneficial.
Yeah. And I think too, like a lot of people get caught up in that, like, oh, I need to hit my macros, or it's important. Your protein intake overall for the day is important. But if you're like, oh, I'm getting 10 or 20 here, and then all of a sudden I'm going to try to fit in 70 grams at dinner. Yeah, you're going to feel like crap. That's standard. Not to say your body's not going to use that, because obviously that's very old thinking to think like we can only absorb 25 grams of protein at once. No, that's not true. We need 25-ish, some more, some less, to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, but our body uses protein for other things. I mean, we just listed a ton of them. So yes, really spreading it out, and, just thinking like, let me take a look, like, maybe at the beginning of your journey, you were really focused on protein, which is totally fine. And that's great. But now take a step back and like, look at your meals now. Like, are you so focused on protein that suddenly you're getting like 60 grams at every meal and you're not really getting much of anything else? Okay. Like maybe let's start adding a little bit more balance to our, because if you're getting 60 grams of protein, it's like 180 grams a day. That's kind of a lot. Unless you're eating a ton of calories, I don't think you eat it. Like if you're eating 160 grams of protein and like 1,400 calories, we need it. That's why you feel bad. Just bottom line. I don't think it's a enzyme issue.
Yeah, and even like thinking of leaky gut issues where, okay, do we need to put a focus on more of those whole foods again and start repairing your gut so you can digest not only protein, but other foods better? Mm-hmm. That can make a difference too. And like, do we have some damaged gut lining that is reducing overall nutrient absorption too? Or do we have some gut dysbiosis with an imbalance in gut bacteria interfering down absorption?
And I think too, like trying to pay attention to, is there certain types of protein that hurt my stomach more? Because it could be, the actual protein source, or maybe you do have a milk sensitivity, or sometimes I see this a lot when people start to supplement a lot more with protein, like protein powders specifically, they could just feel like not great. And so maybe you're not a good candidate to digest like a whey protein concentrate. Maybe you need it broken down a little bit more to like a, whey protein isolate, or maybe you do need more of a plant-based because it digests a little bit easier, and like just that much at one time doesn't work for you, So really trying to pay attention and be like, okay, what is it? Because I have people who are like, oh yeah, I can eat this, this, and this, but anytime I eat this, it's a problem. So I'm like, okay, well, let's figure that out, because maybe it's not an overall poor protein digestion. Maybe it's just that specific source,
Yeah, like think about what's the protein that you're getting in. Like, you're getting a bunch of protein powder all day long. Maybe you need more of that whole food protein, chicken, burger, turkey, whatever it is. And that could be super beneficial. That's what I see where we can mess ourselves up a little bit with the focus on protein. And when we're trying to increase all this protein, we automatically just go to like these really high protein yogurts, and now they have a bunch of artificial sweeteners in them.
Yes.
And the protein bars and the protein shakes, which yes, we can use them every now and then, but number one, you want to look at the ingredients. Number two, you don't want to just live off shakes and bars. You still need whole food protein sources, not just these protein chips and then everything, whatever it is.
Yeah. And you do bring up a good point with like the artificial sweeteners. So many people are more sensitive to those than they think. And if you just are like, oh, all of a sudden I'm having one or two of these a day, there's a lot that can be going on. Orgain, I like Orgain, but for some reason, the chocolate plant-based Orgain really bothers people. And the only thing I can chalk it down to is the sugar alcohols, because it has a little bit more sugar alcohol than the vanilla. And almost everybody that's had an issue with the chocolate can have the vanilla. And so I'm like, well, I don't think it's the protein powder.
Yeah.
But again, some people aren't sensitive, but yeah, taking a look like, what have I changed? Yes, you increased protein, but like also what else kind of changed? And another thing, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing to think about is stress. If you are running on stress all day long, chronic stress is going to divert energy away from digestion. And because, like, when you're stressed out, your body isn't focused on digesting your food, it's focused on getting you away from that stressful situation. So, if you're constantly in
Mhm.
this stressed out state, it's going to make all food digestion harder, especially that protein. Like,
Mhm.
so try to get yourself in a better, that calming environment so we're not impairing not only the stomach acid production, but also enzyme function.
Yes.
That's
Well,
so stress is another one that we can work to control naturally.
I mean, and if you think about it, it's like fight or flight, rest or digest. Like when you are in that fight or flight stress state, like blood actually is not really getting to your stomach, like
Yeah.
your organs, like your intestines, like you're really not having a lot of blood flow there. So it slows down, right? And that makes sense, right? If it's like, oh, we're in a fight situation, we need long-term energy. We don't have the energy to be digesting food. We can't feel hungry. We can't have that in our, like, so I feel like people talk about stress, but they don't really apply it. Like they don't really realize how much it impacts them. And I don't know. I think it's just not very quantifiable to track, but yes. And then the next one is staying hydrated. So obviously water helps to transport nutrients and it does aid in digestion, but avoiding having excess water during mealtime because that excess water is going to dilute stomach acid and even some of your digestive enzymes. And so if you're having a harder time digesting food, you don't want to water any of that down. You want your enzymes to be working and your stomach acid to be working as strongly as possible.
Fermented foods can also help because it's going to aid in that digestion. So I mentioned like the gut dysbiosis. So like sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, those can help improve your gut bacteria. And along with that, we mentioned food quality. So reducing those processed and inflammatory foods. So cutting back on excess sugars, alcohols. Overall, we're improving this gut health. So that way we create a better environment for protein to be able to break down.
Yeah. And then of course, exercise regularly. Physical activity is going to support digestion. It's going to support gut motility. And if you are someone who feels like, man, I have slow digestion, maybe some movement after meal times, which is also great for your blood sugar, but just get kind of like that blood flowing and kind of help. Not intense. I don't go like run or like do anything crazy. I'm talking like a walk away. Like let's walk after we eat or just do a little bit of movement, stand up, do some stuff. And then you can also play around with a digestive enzyme. I actually had somebody last week who was asking me like, hey, can a digestive enzyme make things worse? Because now I just feel like I'm having diarrhea and like this isn't actually helping me. And she was taking like an overall blanket digestive enzyme, which is usually totally fine, but those also have lipase and other enzymes that help to break down fat and starches. And it could be if you're someone who's tried a digestive enzyme and it's like, oh, I feel like that makes it worse. Maybe you don't need excess enzymes to break down fat and carbs and other things. Maybe you just need one that has like pepsin in it to kind of help break down protein.
Yeah, like speaking of exercise, as we've talked about before, like exercise should not just be correlated to weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we just mentioned it can help with the protein digestion, but like I was talking to someone the other day who I ran through a little like detox protocol, just having a lot of stomach issues going on. And she's like, I have so much energy, I literally cannot fall asleep now. So I was like, okay, how's that movement going now that you have all this energy?
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, wait, you're right. Had her increased movement, sleeping like a rock now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that movement, it's not just about the weight loss. Getting that movement in is also going to help you sleep better, digest your food better,
Yeah.
your blood sugar balance. Like so many different things come along with exercise rather than just, I'm going to go work out to lose weight sort of thing.
Right. No, we're like toddlers and puppies, like you take them outside to get energy out, right? Or you get their like wiggles out, right? So like they sleep good. We're the same way. We can't, I mean, obviously we're adults, but we still need to get energy out, even if you're exhausted, whatever. And I find that like, oh, I just have such a hard time falling asleep. Well, have you
today.
Do you move your body at all during the day? Because even though you feel tired, you have this pent up energy. Like our bodies were made to move. So yes, thinking about what are all the other reasons that I could move my body aside from weight loss. Because I think people, and we could do a whole episode on this, but I think people just kind of give up on weight loss because they're like, oh, it's not working for, or they give up on exercise because they're like, it's not working for weight loss. And it's like, well, there's lots of other benefits that you could get. So like, let's just focus on those. Eventually you're going to have weight loss, but neither here nor there.
So it's all in the process, but yeah, we hope this episode was helpful to kind of give you an idea of things to be looking for to see if you're having some issues digesting protein, what are some signs that your body could be giving you. And then we ran through a couple different scenarios of things that are causing it and things that will kind of help. And this is just a starting point. So like you can get testing to check your mineral levels, your electrolytes to see, okay, where are those at? Do I need more of a focus there?
Mm-hmm. Or like even like GI mapping, you can do more extensive testing, which I'm all about, but really making sure I always like tell people, make sure you are covering the basics, because if you are on fire and you go get an HTMA or a GI map, it's going to look like 1,700 things are wrong. So instead, try to have a foundation and then do more targeted testing. Like now I know I'm doing XYZ, I'm doing all these things. I'm having, a mineral imbalance, or I'm having, like some sort of gut imbalance. You're going to get more from your testing and more out of your more targeted implementations. But I mean, we love it. I love a good deep dive.
And yeah, like start with the simple things, chewing your food well, deep breaths.
I had a client that I worked with who was so irritated because she's like, I spent so much money on a functional dietitian. And she is like, my protocol was to chew my food. And I was like,
are you doing it?
Well, are you doing it? Like, you have to chew your food. You can't be like, I'm spending all this money. Something is really wrong with me. Like, this is what it is. Like, some crazy thing's gonna like pop up, and that's what's gonna help me. Like, no, girl, you probably just need to slow down a little bit. Like, chew your food, have more consistent meal times, meal sizes. She was so irritated. I was like, well, that's great advice.
Everyone, like, this is why we focus on these foundations, because we literally had someone focus on chewing their food well, consistent meal timings, deep breaths, like managing their stress better, and all their gut health issues go away. Not saying that's the case for everyone, but sometimes you just need to do the basics.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to spend all this money in extra testing that you were able to kind of easily fix the issue.
Yeah. And we do that, right? Like we want the shiny object. We are very quick to be like, no, I'm doing everything I can. It is something else. And it's kind of like our way of like writing off like, oh, I'm just broken. And like, this is why, and I'm going to find the reason why, when really it's just like, no, you got to do the boring foundational things. Not saying something more isn't wrong, but also if something more is wrong, you are going to feel better by doing the foundations. Like you can't just hop to like the real shiny intervention. I wish. I mean, not really, because that's expensive. But I mean, yeah, I wish it was as simple as like, ooh, take this supplement and like all is going to be well because you have this issue,
Yes, we hope this was a good place to kind of get you started and see how it works for you. And we will be back next week with a brand new episode, hopefully a little less chaotic on my
I feel like unless you watch the video, it's completely fine. Like you're never gonna know.
Maybe this one, everyone needs to go watch the video.
But yeah, because if you guys listen and you don't know, we are on YouTube as well, and that's where you can see the video. So if you want to check out, I think it's funny because I don't think you're gonna know unless you watch the video.
It's just this week is really entertaining for the video.
Yeah, he's like, yes, this is awesome.
Can you tell everyone bye? Say see you next week.
Like, yeah, we're leaving. All right, guys.
Everyone, we will be back next week. Have a great rest of your week. Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.